What's up, Yins? Welcome back to Car Dad Bill. This week we have a 2021 Volkswagen Jetta GLI 6-speed manual. Bet you didn't know those were still around. Let's go for a drive. What's up, Yins? Car Dad Bill coming back at you. 2021 Jetta GLI. Let's take a walk around the outside. Take a look. Let's start off up front like we usually do. LED headlights, LED surrounds. The GLI model comes with some black trim, the red lines all over the front and back, sides as well. GLI wheels with the red brake calipers. Looks really sharp. Up front here, projector beam, headlights, LEDs. This color is called Alpine Gray Metallic. Definitely looks like it was just painted. Very shiny. It's not that matte black finish or matte finish that you see on some of these cars nowadays. We still have our LED turn signals. The GLI comes with the black accented roof. This roof actually opens up as well. Small details like this, Volkswagen right here, pretty cool. Around back, very sharp Audi-like lines. Definitely looks like the new A4. LED tail light lamps, GLI logo on the back. Dual exhaust pipes for 2021, which is something that the GLI hasn't had in a while. Overall, it's a pretty good looking. All right, so we're inside the Jetta GLI. First thing you want to notice is this instrument panel. Now, we've gone from rotary analog dials to TVs and screens everywhere that we look. So this one's no different. You can change the view here and it brings up different things. And sometimes you can leave that there. I have it just kind of blank because you still have your speed down here at the bottom, and then this is your range to empty. I kind of like that look the best. You have some sort of analog gauges on the left and right to show your temperature and your fuel level. Look at some of these materials. We got shiny aluminum finishes here, some shiny aluminum finishes on the steering wheel. The GLI flat bottom steering wheel, which is really attractive. Clutch pedal, man, because we got the stick shift. And not a lot of vehicles out there right now that offer the standard transmission, so that's a plus in my mind. Adds that sporty feel to it. Here, this screen does a bunch of different things. So when you set it off and you turn on the radio, there's a gesture control. See that little wave right there? Let's see if I can do it on camera. If you swipe your hands in front of the screen, it actually moves your presets without you having to touch anything. So that's pretty cool. Your phone, your voice controls, your dedicated buttons, but they're not really buttons, they're actually just touch surfaces that allow you to change between the different settings. So there's your media. You can go between your phone, you can connect your phone here, you can go to your apps, and you can hook up different apps. You can select your sound, so you can change the position, the EQ, and all that good stuff. Your car settings, and then your actual menu to show you the different menus. And they all have the gesture control, which is pretty neat. But this is, if you can tell, it's a flat screen. There's not dedicated buttons or anything like that. It's all touch. Just below that are the vents for your HVAC. Your dedicated HVAC controls. You turn this and it changes the number up there. Heated seat, cold seat, all the different HVAC controls. Down here is where your wireless charging can happen. And down here is one thing that I've noticed just on this car is the traditional USB is gone, and now it's the small to mini USB. So that's different for this car. your engine start, stop, your parking brake. These are your different drive modes. So when you do that, it changes the little logo up top there. And it also gives you a graphic right here to tell you which one you're in. I leave it in sport because it sounds better. It has a little bit more of an exhaust note, a little more aggressive on the throttle. Spot for your pens, your gum, cup holders, typical areas, you know, your glove box and your console glove box. Up in here is where you can change the navigation system. But it comes with a Beats audio system, which is okay. It's nothing to write home about. But look, typical German Volkswagen styling. You know, kind of the two-tone here, the two-tone on the door, mostly black. It's a nice looking interior. Let's take a look at the back seat and the trunk. Back, typical size for a mid-sized sedan. The car seat fits in there just fine. Everyone can plug themselves in. The kids always tell me, see if I can show you this. The kids always tell me if it's a good car or not by the seat belts. These ones, when they push on them, they kind of slide in there and it makes it hard for them to connect it. They like when they're static and they're stuck in place so they can plug themselves in and don't have to worry about it. Doors have the speakers, top and bottom. Simple doors, no door locks back here. Really streamlined design. Leather seats, speakers in the back deck. Take a look at this trunk. Open the trunk, and guess what? It's baseball season. There's the catcher's equipment. There's both of my kids' bat bags and their helmets. Everything fits. Bucket of balls. Everything fits. So you could definitely fit hockey bags in there, luggage, all kinds of stuff. Before we go for a ride, one more time, look at that paint job. I don't know if it comes through on the camera as well as it does in person, but man, it is a sharp, sharp color, especially with the black accents and the red GLI logo. It's really sweet. All right, guys, so now for the fun part, the driving. And being a manual transmission, standard transmission, this is where it's at. When you want a performance sedan like this, you know, a sporty sedan like this, you definitely want a manual transmission. They don't make it very much anymore. It's not offered on a lot of vehicles. But the Jetta does it right with the manual. Allows you to be able to control the car a little bit more. And under the hood of this Jetta is a 2-liter turbocharged engine, 4-cylinder, 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, which I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but these cars nowadays are really packing a lot of power into these little 4-cylinder engines, and it sounds great. It has a really nice whistle to it towards the top of the RPM. Good amount of torque, you can feel it. The exhaust note in sport right now is absolutely dynamic. It's got a little bit of a throatiness, you know, kind of like the old Civics when they used to tune them up, but definitely drives sporty, feels sporty. It's a lot of fun to drive. Driving through the park right now, you know, keeping the speed down. There's a cool addition to the interior. It's called Eco Gear Select, and it basically tells you when to downshift, when to upshift. If you're new to driving a standard transmission, it's definitely helpful in that regard. I personally have been driving a manual transmission since I started driving. They were a little more prevalent back then. But this one kind of tells you, first off, it indicates what gear you're in right off the bat. So you never have to guess. Obviously, you can look down at the gear shifter and see what gear you're in. But there's a digital readout up on the instrument cluster that tells you as well what gear you're in. And depending on the grade you're on, the throttle input you're giving it, the speed you're at, it'll tell you whether to upshift or downshift to get the best economy. That's really what it's for. It's for economy. So now we're about to exit Brady's Run Park, and we're gonna head up my favorite driving road, one of my favorite driving roads, which is Park Road. It takes you up towards the Rolling Acres Golf Course. I definitely think it's one of the better roads. You kind of get a feel for the car. You can get on the throttle a little bit, especially going up the hill. This turbo, I'm in 4th gear, pulling up this hill, and it's pulling up really nicely. The thing about Volkswagens that's my favorite, and it's really any sedan by Volkswagen, whether it's the Passat, the Jetta that I'm in right now, the GTI hatchbacks, they all handle super well. I mean, I had a Volkswagen CC R-Line back in the day, and that thing was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It drove nice, it was fast, it was quick off the start. It had the same turbo engine that this one does, but it wasn't a manual transmission. Quick off the start, flat handling, great car. And this is one of the same ones. This car has flat handling. You can really whip it around bends. You can put it through its paces. It's never really gonna skid on you or lose control. And with the manual transmission, it just adds to the experience. You're able to control, you know, it's not like a manual setting in the automatics nowadays where you kind of flip it over to manual and you're kind of there, and if you forget about it, it goes back to drive. No. You're always going to be on it. You're always having to pay attention. Plop it through its gears. Make sure you're always in the right gear for the right RPM range. And honestly, I think most kids nowadays should try to learn how to drive a manual transmission because it makes you pay attention. Not only is it fun, but it makes you pay attention to what's going on around you. It makes you a better driver, I think. So here we go. I mean, we're going down through Park Road, third gear down the hill, holding the RPMs because you're coming up to a tight bend up here. You know, and we're not going crazy fast by any means, but this car it's just fun. It's fun to drive. You take the right lines, and it's really going to respond. Downshift to the fourth gear. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Volkswagen, for keeping the manual transmission. So I'm going to take this Jetta onto the highway so you guys can hear the highway noise at highway speeds. Again, it's a very quiet car. I'll take the earbuds out when we get to the highway so you can kind of get the full feeling of what's going on here. But it's definitely a quiet car. It's got a nice rough ride, so you can feel the bumps, you can feel the road. That's what you want in a sports sedan like this with the manual. You want that feel. You want to be able to feel what you're driving over. So I think it's pretty cool. Another thing I forgot to mention about this manual transmission is that it's so easy to drive. The clutch is very, very light. The clutch interaction is at the top of the pedal, and you don't have to put it all the way to the floor every single time to shift. The gearbox is also super smooth. Clicks in and out of gear. Volkswagen's always been kind of known for that, but it definitely clicks through it really well. But the one thing I noticed is the newer manual transmission cars, well, let me go back. The old ones, you had to give it throttle evenly to get it into gear, and it wouldn't catch and it wouldn't engage that gear unless you had the right throttle response. This car and a lot of the newer cars, especially on a flat road, you can start the clutch out, and as the RPMs, if you go slow enough and the RPMs dip, you don't have to give it throttle. The computer will actually keep the throttle up high enough to engage the gear without you applying throttle. Now, I wouldn't suggest getting into that habit because you're going to stall the car out, and I hate to admit it, but I'll be honest with you guys, I did stall it one time. Putting in the second gear and trying to pull out into traffic, and I didn't have enough momentum to carry me out there. But if you're good enough with the throttle, you know, if you don't have to give it a lot, you put it in first gear and you just let the gear out, and there, I'm in the gear already. I mean, I'm already in it. You can feel it thump into gear, and it's so it's kind of foolproof in that regard. I guess that's what my point is. Now I don't have the earbuds in. Getting up to the highway. Of course, I got stuck behind somebody that doesn't want to go highway speed. You know how that goes. You can hear that exhaust, the intake. Get into sixth gear here. So now we're in sixth gear, highway speed, and it's pretty quiet. You can have a conversation with your passengers. It's not overly windy today, which is a good thing, but it's definitely smooth, quiet. Loves being on the highway. The Jetta GLI comes in 2 trim levels. It comes in the S and the Autobahn. The one that we're driving today is the S model. Different wheels, different trim, the roof, the colors are a little bit different. But this definitely, the S model is definitely at home on the highway. There's no doubt about it. So a couple final thoughts on the GLI. First things first, the manual transmission, right? Manual transmission, sporty sedan, turbocharged engine. It is front wheel drive, it's not all wheel drive. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. Love the digital dash, the digital gauges, the digital interior overall in these Jettas are really sharp, kind of mirroring the Audi, you know, big brother. I like how, I don't want to say plain, but classy the interior is. Not a lot of wow factor as far as materials being used. A lot of the same materials that they use in previous models, but now they're just different shapes and they layer them differently. There's soft materials, there's harder materials, there's aluminum stuff. It's just an overall clean, classy interior that I'm a fan of. I'm also a fan of the exterior with the LED lighting all the way around the exterior now. Dual exhaust tips in the back and the large 18-inch wheels. The Jetta GLI S that we're driving right now, MSRP's at 32 and change. And it gets the MPG for this one is 28 average. You can get in the high 30s on the highway in 6th gear, you know, keeping it kind of calm. You'll definitely get into the mid 30s without a doubt. But the average mileage is 28. That's what they claim. Now, if I toggle through my settings here, and I can find this for you here really quickly. Is I'm averaging, it says, let me get the overview real quick here. It says I'm averaging 21. So averaging 21, and if anyone knows me, I drive a little bit faster than normal, a little bit more aggressive. That's just kind of the deal when you're reviewing cars, is you kind of put them through their paces to make sure that they can function correctly. Obviously safely, but I'm averaging around 21. So that's not a bad mile per gallon in a 2-liter turbo with the Sport like this. Pretty cool car. I give it a thumbs up for sure. But hey, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate it. Please share, like, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it. If you have any requests for cars, do you have any comments on these cars, definitely leave them in the comment section. I appreciate everything. But that's Car Dad Bill signing off. Real cars, real people for real life. Car Dad Bill.